This is section 3.4, day 2, and today we're going to use our idea of slope in order to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines some more, and then we're going to draw those kind. So first example, we're just going to refresh. We're going to decide if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. And remember that parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal. And if you're unsure what those are or what that looks like, make sure you go back and watch the lesson right before this. So first off, we're going to do slope on both of our lines. So I'm going to do line 1 right here. I'll do x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'll just do some subtraction. So -1 minus 2. And then 0 minus -2. So on top I've got -3, and then on the bottom I've got 2. Line 2, I'm going to do the same thing. So x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to do 3 minus -1. You got to watch those double negatives. And then 2 minus -4. So 3 minus -1 gives me a 4. And then 2 minus -4 gives me a 6. And then when you first look at this, it kind of looks like they don't match whatsoever. Not parallel for sure, they're not the same. And they don't look perpendicular either. But we mentioned this in the last lesson. Make sure that you are always reducing. This would actually be 2/3. And now when I compare them, these lines are perpendicular. This one is -3/2, and this one is the flip of that, 2/3, and then that was negative, this one's positive. So those are opposite reciprocals. So make sure that you're reducing all of your fractions before you decide if they're parallel or perpendicular. Next up, we're going to do this line 1, x1, y1, x2, y2. So -3 minus 2. And then 4 minus 1. -3 minus 2 is -5. 4 minus 1 is 3. Line 2, we're going to do the same thing. x1, y1, x2, y2. So -2 minus 3. -1 minus -4. -2 minus 3 is -5. -1, and then the two negatives make a positive. So -1 plus 4 is 3, and these ones are parallel. They ended up being the exact same. Now we're going to take the idea of parallel and perpendicular and actually draw something. So this one says first we're going to graph line H, and it goes through 1, -2, that's the x, that's the y, and 5, 6, that's the x, and that's the y. So I'm going to go over 1, down 2, and then I'm going to go over 5, and up 6. And this, I'm going to connect them. I'm just going to grab a sheet of paper so I can draw this straight. This is line H. I'm just going to put a little H on the end. They said this is line H. Now I would like to graph a line, another one, D, that is perpendicular to H, and it has to go through this point 2, 5. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has to go through this point, and it needs to be perpendicular. And it can't just be, well, I eyeballed it. We need the exact slope. So we're going to find the slope of our first line, so line H. So I'm going to do 6 minus -2, whoops, -2, and 5 minus 1. So 6 minus -2 turns out to be an 8, and 5 minus 1 is 4. Again, I'm going to reduce that, so that's 2 over 1. So my slope is up 2 and then over 1. So up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. That looks about right. I'm hitting on my dots every time, so it looks about right. So if I want to be perpendicular to that, I need to flip it 1/2, and I need to flip the sign. So it's positive right now, so it'll be negative. So from this point, we're going to go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. And I can work my way backwards too, going back to up 1 to kind of give me a few more dots. I'm going to connect these like that. And now I know for sure that this line, D, is perpendicular to H because they had opposite reciprocal slopes. So on the test, you're going to have one like this, and you actually have to find the slope. You got to find your new slope, and then make sure it shows that slope, the down 1 over 2, so I can tell that it's perpendicular. You can't just draw two lines and then go, I put a box in the corner, therefore they're perpendicular. Now that we're using slopes, we got to show that our slopes are opposite reciprocal. Last one says we're going to graph a line, but this time it's going to be parallel to h. So parallel means I have to use the same slope. So our slope, the original slope of h was 2 over 1. And we're still going through this point 2, 5. So that's right here. And we need a slope of up to over 1. And then we can just go backwards for that. So down 2, back 1, down 2, back 1. Just connect these. About there. And this is h, and 8, oh sorry, not h, this is g. The original was h. So these two are parallel, they have the same slope, and then d is perpendicular because it has the opposite reciprocal slope.